No matter what you believe about the world, it takes faith, but it shouldn't be blind faith. In this week's talk, we'll look at the value and the necessity of believing based on evidence.
Diverse group of people here in the room and here watching from home. And I know in a series like this, a lot of times we have an even more diverse group of people because a lot of people have questions about stuff like science and faith. And let me just take a minute to say, if you're here today and you're kind of investigating the claims about Christianity, welcome. Glad you're here. This is a place where we want everybody to be free to ask questions and have curiosity, and you don't have to believe the same that we do to come and hang out with us and listen and check things out for yourself. If you're here today as an atheist or as an agnostic, or if you're watching online, welcome. I would love to discourse with you. Also, if you're here and you're kind of like on the, I don't think God's actually out there, but I'm not sure. Let me just take a minute to say, wow, you have great faith. If you're an atheist or agnostic today, you have great, impressive faith. You probably have more faith than a lot of Christians do. And you say, wait a minute, I don't have faith. Oh, you do. You do. Because you believe some stuff that even I am not willing to jump out on the ledge and believe. And we're going to talk about that today. Because really, no matter what you believe, everything takes a little bit of this side, science and measurement and evidence, and everything takes a little bit of this side, faith. That's faith, by the way, if you couldn't read it upside down. It all takes a little bit of that. Last week, Dr. Mike Tennyson was with us, and we kicked off this series talking about the need to have both, and how God explains truth to humanity in two different ways. One of those is through His Word, through the Bible, and one of those is through His world, through the things around us. And God intended to use both to convey the truth, and so we should use both. We should reach out to both. We should take an honest look at both because they should harmonize together. And sometimes things that are not real clear in one are very clear in the other, and vice versa. And so we looked at that last week. If you missed last week, no big deal, but you can catch it on all of our media platforms. And the question and answer session, we have that online too, so you should check that out. Let me take a minute to interrupt myself. And Kate, if you can find in the bottom bin the text your questions to. As we're going through this series, I know a lot of you guys have some, okay, but what about this? Questions about how science and faith work together. I'm going to invite you all through this series to text those questions to our phone number, 309-271-2791. I don't know if we have that. We'll find it by the end, and we'll put it up there. It probably says text it for Dr. Tennyson, but he's available to help with those anyway. But each week, I'll take a minute during the week, and I'll respond to some of those questions, because ultimately, we want a culture where we're investigating things, where we're searching for truth. Because I believe if you're looking for truth and you drill down deep enough, you find God wherever you go looking for truth. So it takes both. It takes both science and faith. And if you've got fill in the blank notes, you'll want to write this down, or you can do it on the Bible app. Every worldview requires faith. No matter what you believe about the world, every worldview requires faith. Now, this is pretty obvious. We know that if you're a Christian, we know your worldview requires faith, right? That's obvious. We all kind of embrace that side. But even a worldview that says, I don't believe that God exists, that requires faith. See, there are two primary ways. You want to talk about Christianity, there are two primary ways to look at the world, okay? I'm going to borrow this globe for a minute. Lower the globe. release the meteor, right? No meteor. Yeah, some of you guys picked up on that reference. Okay, there are two different ways of looking at reality. The Christian has faith that would say, I believe that there is some kind of higher power beyond what is measurable, beyond what can be seen, beyond this physical world who made everything. And the atheist or the agnostic view, and by the way, if you guys don't know the term agnostic is basically a stance that says, if there is a God, there's really no way that we'll ever know. Okay, I don't think there is. It's possible that there is, but there's no way for us to know for sure, so we just kind of take the I don't know approach. That's a lot of people in our country. The naturalistic worldview that's necessary says that all that is real is what can be measured and seen and observed. If it can't be measured or seen or observed, it's not real. Don't believe in magic, don't believe in fairy tales, don't believe in spirits or ghouls or psychics or anything that's not directly measurable. And I understand that a lot of people hold that view, but if you hold that view, you have to take a few things, and you have to make a few faith statements in order to believe that God does not exist. I want to show you a couple of those today. You want to write these down in your notes. First one is this: naturalism requires faith that order comes from chaos. It requires faith that order comes from chaos. And that's kind of the opposite of what we see in the observable world. Any parent who has kids who has ever cleaned the house knows that things tend to go from order toward chaos very quickly. We hosted Christmas for my in-laws this year, and we cleaned everything in the house, okay? And it's only been a few weeks, and it has quickly gone from order right back to chaos. We know that's the way that things typically go. I have a deck of cards here that a Packers fan in my life gave to me, okay? And right now, it is in order by suit and by number. Everything is ordered. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this and I'm going to add energy to this deck of cards. And we're going to see if things go from order to order or order to chaos. Whoa, there they go. Wow. All right. Not very orderly. We have some all over the place, right? All over the place. Now, if I took all of these cards, let me grab a few. I'm going to step off camera. Don't worry. I'll be right back. I'm going to grab some of these cards, okay? And I'm going to take them, and they're currently in chaos. I'm going to add energy again and see if they go to order. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to stack up, and they went into even more chaos. Okay? We all knew that was going to happen. Sort of like if you're up 21-3, but you're playing against the Bears. We know that things are going to go from order to chaos. Hey, here's the thing. We're all watching from home. Cowboys fans, Bears fans, Packers fans. We're all in misery together. Okay? We know that the second law of thermodynamics, things tend to go from order toward chaos. We see it everywhere in our world. However, if you believe that there is no God, then you must believe that life originated from non-life with no direction at all. Okay, that's the prevailing theory. If you say, okay, there is no God, the prevailing theory from scientists today is that life came from non-life with no direction, nothing at all. That's a very difficult claim to justify with what we see in the world, with observable data. Because here's what you need in order for life to exist. Okay, all of the cells in your body are built using proteins. Some of you guys have taken biology or anatomy and physiology, and you know about cells and how cells are built. You have to have proteins, these little structures that you put the pieces, you put all of these elements together in a sequence, and they snap into a line, and then you have to fold it in the right shape, and then it serves a purpose. Proteins in your body. And it's actually very difficult to build a protein because you have to sequence it right. Okay, it's like playing Scrabble and just pulling out letters at random and hoping that it makes a word. Sometimes it does, most of the time it doesn't. It's difficult to get even one protein right, and it's constantly happening in your body. Well, in order for life to come out of non-life, you have to get proteins to form with no direction at all. And as it turns out, that's extremely difficult to do. In fact, I'm going to give you a big number, okay? The odds of one functional protein forming by chance with no direction at all is 1 in 10 to the 164th power. And some of you guys know numbers. That is a big number, okay? That's 1 in 10 and then 164 zeros after the 10. That's how likely it is that one protein can form by chance. Let me put that number into perspective for you. If you look at the entire observable universe and you measure it in centimeters, okay? The entire observable universe is about 10 to the 27th power centimeters wide, okay? The odds that one protein can form without any direction by chance is 1 in 10 to the 164th power. And let me double down on that. In order to have a functional cell, you need multiple proteins. You have to have a protein library of about 100 different proteins, and you need even the simplest, the most just basic cell we can envision takes about 500 of these to function. So if you believe there is no God, everything that we see came, all the life and complexity that we see came by unguided process. You have to believe in some pretty far-fetched stuff for that to happen. Josh Clark is a podcaster, and I enjoy his work. If you guys have ever listened to the How Stuff Works podcast, he's one of those guys. Josh is an agnostic, and in a podcast that he did, he recognized the difficulty of it, and I like how he put it. He was talking about the idea that life came out of non-life, and he said, quote, "It's like the idea of putting some plastic pellets and metal shavings into a bucket and expecting an autonomous 3D printer to form from it. There is some fundamental governing force of nature that causes life to assemble along predictable lines. We just haven't figured out what that force or those lines are yet." It's weird. You know, it's really odd is that we can't explain why when you sequence things together to form a protein, they snap together kind of like a magnetic building set. We don't know why. It's almost as if someone designed a system where they snap together to form life. But of course, if you hold a naturalistic worldview, you say, well, that's not possible. It's just chance. But boy, aren't we lucky that it happened for us. That's a faith statement. 1 in 10 to the 164th power is a faith statement. Here's another one. Okay. Naturalism, atheism, agnosticism, it requires faith in our measurements. Write that down. It requires an immense amount of faith that we can measure accurately what is real. Because what we're saying is everything that is real depends on what we can see and hear and perceive and write down and measure in a scope. And as it turns out, what we can see is pretty limited. Okay, check this out. Humans can only see about 0.0035% of the visible light spectrum. It's a really small percentage that we can even see. If the spectrum of light is from here in Pekin to Chicago, the amount that we can see is about the width of this stage. Everything else is like, it's there, we have no ability to see it. Or hearing, humans hear, okay, check this out. And some of you guys, it's even less than this. I'll say it louder. Humans hear, okay, we love you, 0.0006% of the audio spectrum. Musicians, everything that you do and you love happens within 0.0006% of the audio spectrum. If the audio spectrum was here to Chicago, the amount that you can hear is about this much. And everything else is there. You have no way to perceive it. And we say, well, Chris, I know, but we develop things like telescopes to allow us to see beyond what our eyes could naturally see. And that's awesome. Okay, we develop stuff like telescopes and we realize, wow, space is bigger than we thought. And if you look through history, you realize, okay, then for a long time we didn't know about radio waves, but we discovered radio waves. And we discovered X-rays. And we discovered gamma rays. And then the Hulk came into being with too many gamma rays. Okay, we discovered don't go in the chamber when it's exploding with gamma rays, or you become a rage monster. We discovered all of these things. We discovered, okay, have you ever heard of dark matter and dark energy? Yeah, right. So we discovered there's something that we can't directly see, but we see the gravitational influence of it. We discovered black holes, even though you literally can't see a black hole, but we believe that they're there. Okay? And it's cool that we're expanding our understanding. But think about this. If you hold a naturalistic worldview, then you have to come into it admitting that you're basing what's real and not real on what you can measure and see today. And that measurement will probably change in the future. There will probably be more that you have to acknowledge is real 50 years from now as we get better equipment. So you're making your determination based on a limited sample size. Okay? That is a faith statement. I believe life came from non-life. That's a faith statement because statistically it seems impossible. I believe that there's nothing beyond what I can measure right now. That's a faith statement because you're saying, I have faith that we'll never be able to measure more than what I see right now. Or I have faith that there's stuff out there that I can't currently measure. Whatever you believe, it takes faith. And whatever you believe, it's built on evidence. See, write this down. Every worldview is built on evidence. And this is where the Christians say, nuh-uh. Right? I don't need evidence, Chris. I just believe. I don't need anything. I don't need all that science stuff. I just have faith. I just believe. Yeah, but why do you just believe? What I want to tell Christians in the room is you already base what you believe on evidence. I just want to encourage you to expand that a little bit. Every worldview is based on evidence. We know that scientific worldviews are based on measurable evidence. But if you're a Christian, your worldview should also. Okay? Listen to this, 1 Peter 3:15. Let's put that up on the screens. Okay? This is our main passage for this whole series, so we're going to refer to this a lot in the next month. God says to the church, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do it with gentleness and respect. Always be prepared. Always be prepared. Always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that you have. Not just, well, God said it and I believe it and that settles it. Okay? But when someone that you work with says, why do you do that? Why do you believe that? Why are you giving that? Why are you sacrificing that? Why are you stopping doing that? Why won't you do this with us? And you say, well, I'm a Christian. I believe God says that's not how I should live. You believe in that stuff? Why? It's right in that moment. It's right in that moment. And God says you need to be ready to give a reason. Now, the Greek word here for reason, to give an answer, is one word, okay? So we translate it 3 words, give and answer in English. In Greek, it's one word, apologia. If you've ever heard of the Christian term apologetics, that's where it comes from. It means to give a logical defense citing evidence and clear reasoning. It's like a legal term. It's a lawyer term. It's a prove that this is by showing your evidence. And God says to Christians who have faith, that's great that you have faith, but you need to always be ready to give the reasoning behind why you have faith. Because we're called to be bringers. We're called to be people who bring the gospel to the people around us and who bring people around us to church so they can hear the gospel. You need evidence no matter what you believe. Okay, and there are 2 kinds of evidence. You guys already have one of them. I want to help you expand into the other. See, write this down. There are 2 kinds of evidence primarily: measurable and experiential. Measurable and experiential evidence. Okay? And I know a series like this, for some of you guys, and I don't want to, this is not meant to offend you or to lessen in any way your faith in Jesus. But I know when we do this, we say, Pastor Chris, that's great. I don't need all the science stuff. I just believe. Okay, but why do you just believe? And here's what I want you to see. You just believe because you are standing on evidence. It's just experiential evidence. And experiential evidence is real. It's just not directly measurable. Doesn't mean it's any less real than the stuff that we can put a measuring tape to, okay? Let me ask you this. How many have ever gone to a place, gone to a party, gone to a store, and you're like, there's just a weird vibe going on in here? Anybody else? Okay? How many ounces of vibe do you need before it's too weird for you to leave? I don't know. It's just weird. Okay? Ladies, have you ever been out shopping someplace and there's a guy that just gives you the ick? Have you ever been the ick, right? So how many pounds feet of ick do you need before you're calling your husband, you're leaving the store? I don't know. But it's experiential data and you act on it. Okay? Husbands in the room. Okay, guys, pay attention, be careful right here. I'm trying to help you out. Okay? Husbands in the room. How many husbands would say, I love my wife? Yeah, look at that, wives. Look at your husband. He's got his hand up. Okay? See if he put deodorant on. He did. He's very huggable today. Yeah, he loves you. Okay? At some point, husbands, you knew she was the one. Okay? And you didn't have to cross a threshold to, how many metric tons of love before you said she's the one. You just know, and you love her. And if I said, well, how measurably? I don't know, but I do. I love her. Okay? So wives, just remember that tonight after the kids are down for bed. Okay? Husbands, like I said, doing you a favor. It matters. It's actionable. How many of you guys have ever watched a courtroom show and they're trying to prosecute someone? And we know in the United States it takes three things. You need to prove three things before we accuse somebody of a major crime. You need means and blank and opportunity. Who remembers what the middle one is? Say it loud. Motive. Okay? If you want to accuse somebody of murder, you need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt they had means, motive, and opportunity. Now, means we can measure. They had a gun. They did not have a gun. Pretty easy. Okay? Opportunity. They were in town. They were not in town. They were at work. They were not at work. Pretty easy. How do you measure motive? Well, he was jealous. Okay, well, how many kilometers of jealousy did he have? I don't know. Jealousy doesn't come in kilometers. He just was. Here's what I want you to see, Christians. Okay, I believe because I feel God in the room. Okay, that is evidence, but it's not measurable. I believe because when I pray, I feel like God speaks back to me. Evidence, not measurable. I believe because my grandma said, and he's been faithful through my life, and every time I'm in a bad spot, he cheers me up. The Holy Spirit walks day by day with me. All of that is good. All of that matters, and all of that should be part of what convinces you that God is with you and real. And that's good, and you already base your faith on evidence. The problem is that's not very transferable. It's hard for me to say, I believe, Dan, because when I pray, God speaks to me. And Dan says, well, he doesn't speak to me. I don't have the same experience you do. And so when it comes to the people around you who don't know the Lord, okay, you might say, Chris, I don't need any more. I'm convinced. I know. But your experiential evidence is not enough for your agnostic friend at school. It's not going to convince them. It's not enough for your grown son who grew up in church, but now it's like, I don't know that I believe in all of that stuff. It's not enough to convince him. You already believe based on evidence. I'm asking you to push a little bit further. Last thing to write down is this. Believing always takes faith, but it shouldn't be blind faith. Because God said, always be ready to give an answer. Always have this apologia, this, here's my reasoning, based on evidence. Now, your experience is part of that. But I'm asking you to push a little bit further and expand the foundations of your faith, not only for you, and yes, for you, but also for the people who you love, who you want to come to faith in Jesus. Because God said not only is your faith going to speak to them, but your reasoning will speak to them. And some people just have a hard time with the experiential side. I need to see the evidence. I need to see measurable stuff, and that's not wrong. It's just different people are built different ways. See, I have great faith in God. I am fully convinced that He is with me, that He loves me, that He communicates with me. I have great experience with God. I grew up in church. I grew up in Pentecostal church. Okay, we were like really into experience. All right, I have had plenty of moments where I said, man, I feel something stirring inside of me that is not measurable, and it's real. And I pray and I ask God for wisdom, and He communicates back to me. And that is part of the foundation of my faith in Him, but that's not all of the foundation of my faith in Him. And I'm not saying it's not enough, but I'm saying when I look in God's world, I also see evidence that's compelling. Friends, I believe in God because I think when I consider how difficult it is for life to come from nothing, I am not willing to even consider the possibility that everything came into being from nothing. When I look at the world, I see clear evidence. Someone designed this. When I look at DNA, and I consider how sophisticated the language, the information is in every cell of my body, and how tightly all of that works together, I say, there is no way that came from unguided process. When I look at the diversity in the animal kingdom, I say, man, I just don't believe that things jump from this many chambers in the heart to this many chambers, that things jump from this kind of breathing to that kind of breathing. I think something or someone nudged them along the way in the process. I believe in God because when I look at the sky and I see the stars at night, when I see a sunset from my back porch, when I travel to Colorado and I stand on the mountains and I see mountains and mountains and mountains, that I see beauty. And there's no evolutionary advantage for me to think the world is beautiful. But the existence of beauty tells me somebody created the world to be enjoyed, not just to be used. I have faith in God because I'm convinced that the Bible is the most reliable ancient document in human history. I'm convinced that God is real because Jesus of Nazareth was a real person who actually lived, who said, the God of the Old Testament is real, and I've come here to reveal Him to you. I believe that Jesus actually lived, actually died, actually came back to life because multiple eyewitnesses saw Him and wrote about it and told people about it and were willing to die before refuting their beliefs. I believe based on experience and measurable evidence. And that's what I encourage you to do as we set out on this journey for this next several weeks. Is just take a fresh look and say, I want to build that foundation even stronger. For some of you, that measurable part is it's been an itch in the back of your mind. And if you grew up in church, you don't talk about this because it makes you uncomfortable. But for some of you, you grew up in church where you're supposed to just have faith and belief, but somewhere in the back of your mind, there's a concern. What if I'm wrong? Because sometimes it seems like this part doesn't match with this part. What if I'm wrong? And what if I've built my life on something that's not real? And you need to investigate the measurable. I believe if you search for truth and you dig deep enough, you find God no matter where you search. You need to go on this journey to build that foundation for you. Some of you guys are like, I've been fully convinced since I was 5 years old, but your son or your daughter-in-law or your neighbor or your classmate or your coach, somebody that you love, just believe because I told you so is not enough for them. And you need that so that you can share that with them. Every worldview is built on faith. And every worldview is built on evidence. And I'm asking you as believers to expand that evidence. Okay? Because look, if your son got diagnosed with diabetes and you said, it's not really my thing, would you not do a deep dive and learn everything you could about diabetes so that you can help him be healthy? Of course you would. If your mother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's and you don't know anything, you thought it was Alzheimer's. You didn't even know it's not spelled that way, okay? But if she got diagnosed with that, would you not take the time to study and say, I want to learn everything I can about mom's condition so I can help her? Of course you would. There are people in your life who you love, and the main hurdle for them coming to faith in Jesus is the measurable. Would you not then be willing to learn about that so that you can help bring them to faith in Christ, so that you can help lower those hurdles for them? Because God is desperate to connect with them. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to be. Everyone has faith, and every Christian has faith, but it shouldn't be blind faith. So let's put evidence around it. Hey there, just wanted to take a minute to say thanks for watching. If a friend sent you this link, it's because they believe what we talked about today is going to make a positive impact in your life. And if it did, there's probably somebody that you care about who could benefit from it. So take a minute to share this video with somebody. Post it to your timeline or send them a direct link. And if you're able, take a minute to give using the link at the bottom of the description on this video. One last thing. Maybe you feel a tug at your soul and you're ready to take the next step in your spiritual life and form a relationship with God. We've got folks here who would love to talk with you about it. So just text prayer to the number on your screen and we'll follow up with you. It's also in the description on this video in case that helps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.